By law, real American ice cream must be at least 10% milk fat, and a shocking share of the freezer aisle quietly fails that test, hiding behind clever labels and whipped-in air. We're clearing out 11 label tricks to skip, then counting down 5 brands that are actually real ice cream with a number 1 built on just 5 ingredients. The single fastest way to tell whether you're holding real ice cream or something else entirely comes down to 2 words printed right on the carton. First up, the single most direct proof of what you are actually buying is printed right on the carton, though it is rarely in bold letters. If a tub is labeled as a frozen dairy dessert, it is legally not ice cream. The federal government sets a strict standard of identity for real ice cream. To carry that legal name, the product must contain at least 10% milk fat, weigh no less than 4.5 pounds per gallon, and limit whipped-in air, known as overrun, to 100% or less. When a manufacturer cannot meet these exact metrics, often because they reduce the butter fat or increase the air to manage production costs, they must use the alternative fallback term. This is not a safety issue. These are perfectly legal and safe sweet treats, but they do not deliver the dense, rich experience of traditional ice cream. As a documented industry example, around 2013, a major national brand quietly transitioned several of its flagship flavors from real ice cream to frozen dairy desserts to keep shelf prices steady. For budget-conscious shoppers, this means the marketing graphics on the front of the tub matter far less than the legal product name. If you want genuine traditional ice cream, ignore the enticing pictures of vanilla beans or chocolate swirls on the front panel. Flip the container over, read the actual legal name, and make sure those 2 words, ice cream, are explicitly printed there. In second place, the next hard-to-fake clue is not about reading the packaging, but feeling the physical heft of the carton itself. Once you check the legal name, you have to look out for the AIR trick. In the dairy industry, whipped-in air is officially known as overrun. When manufacturers freeze the base mix, they pump air into it to create a smooth, scoopable texture. But there is a massive financial catch for shoppers. Cheap tubs of frozen dessert can legally run up to 100% overrun. This means the finished product is exactly half air and half actual ingredients. Effectively, you are paying full price for a tub that is 50% empty space. Because 2 identical-looking containers on the shelf can hold wildly different amounts of actual dairy, weight, and density tell the real story. This is why physical weight is the ultimate value indicator in the freezer aisle. A heavier tub almost always means you are getting more actual cream, milk, and solids rather than a puffed-up, foamy texture. The FDA requires real ice cream to weigh at least 4.5 pounds per gallon, while premium brands go even heavier by keeping their air levels very low. When you are comparing brands at the grocery store, do not look only at the size of the tub. Pick them up, compare their weight in your hands, and choose the heavier container to get the most actual food for your dollar. In third place, the fastest ingredient list lesson in the freezer aisle is found by checking what comes first. Under the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, ingredients must be listed in descending order by weight. This means whatever ingredient weighs the most during manufacturing has to go at the very top of the panel. If you want a traditional rich ice cream, you should see fresh cream and milk leading the formula. However, many national brands choose to prioritize cheaper components to keep production costs down. If you flip the tub over and see corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, or liquid sugar listed before cream, the manufacturer is leading with sweeteners. In these formulas, dairy is treated as an extra rather than the star. While these budget-friendly options are completely safe and make for a perfectly fine sweet treat, they simply cannot deliver the traditional mouthfeel of real butter fat. Checking the first few ingredients takes you one step deeper than the product name. It turns the nutrition label into a quick value test, showing you whether a brand is investing in high-quality dairy or stretching the recipe with liquid sugar. If a sweetener is the star of the list, you are paying real ice cream prices for a carton where dairy is not doing the heavy lifting, meaning you get less actual cream for your hard-earned dollar. In fourth place, we find a much more fundamental formula swap in the freezer aisle, replacing dairy fat entirely with palm, coconut, or other vegetable oils. While previous shortcuts involved tweaking sweeteners or whipping in extra air, this strategy changes the very source of the product's fat. It is a perfectly legal and safe manufacturing practice that is significantly cheaper to produce than sourcing real cream, which is why you will see it used in budget-friendly tubs and dairy-free alternatives alike. However, swapping out butterfat for vegetable oil transforms the product into a completely different frozen experience. Real dairy fat has a unique melting point that creates the traditional, slow-melting richness we associate with real ice cream. When a brand engineers creaminess using plant oils, they are replicating that texture using food science rather than actual dairy. The fastest way to spot this on your grocery run is to look closely at the ingredient list. If you see palm oil, hydrogenated coconut oil, or soybean oil instead of fresh cream or milk fat, you are looking at a vegetable oil frozen dessert. These products are completely fine to enjoy if you are looking for a dairy-free option or a budget-conscious treat, but they legally cannot be labeled as real ice cream. For shoppers who want the genuine dairy-rich density of traditional ice cream, missing cream on the label is the ultimate giveaway that you are paying for engineered plant fats instead of real butterfat. In fifth place, the way texture gets patched back together when cream is not doing enough on its own reveals a major formula shortcut: the overload of gums and stabilizers. When reading the back of a carton, it is common to find a long lineup of additives like guar gum, carrageenan, locust bean gum, and cellulose gum. These ingredients are completely safe, legal, and serve a practical purpose. They bind water, increase viscosity, and prevent ice crystals from growing when the tub sits in a home freezer. However, a long list of stabilizers often signals a formula designed to mimic natural richness instead of actually delivering it. Real milk fat naturally provides a smooth, velvety mouthfeel on its own. When a manufacturer cuts down on expensive cream to manage production costs, they must rely on food science to engineer that lost creaminess. Essentially, the longer the list of gums, the less dairy is doing the work. This is about ingredient honesty and getting true value for your hard-earned money. Paying premium prices for a carton loaded with thickeners means paying for engineered texture rather than actual dairy density. For a traditional, high-quality experience, check the label for a simple recipe. The fewer gums and binders on the ingredient list, the more you can trust that genuine cream is doing the heavy lifting. In sixth place, we look at the category trade-off of light reformulations. These products are completely safe, legal, and highly useful for shoppers specifically looking to cut back on fat or calories. Under federal guidelines, a carton can carry the light label if it delivers at least a 50% reduction in fat or calories compared to the brand's standard version. For diet-conscious buyers, this makes them a highly practical choice. However, removing that much butterfat fundamentally alters how frozen dairy behaves. Fat is what gives traditional ice cream its signature creamy structure and slow-melting characteristics. When you extract the fat, something else has to fill the void to keep the scoop from turning into a block of solid ice. To mimic that lost richness and hold the texture together, manufacturers often rely on food science, bringing in non-caloric sweeteners like erythritol or sucralose, alongside an increased dose of stabilizers and gums. There is absolutely nothing wrong with these ingredients. but the end result is a very different product from the dense, traditional scoop suggested by classic, indulgent carton graphics. This is a category trade-off, helping you make sure the label matches your personal buying goals. If your priority is saving calories, light reformulations do exactly what they promise. But if you are shopping for the pure, simple richness of old-fashioned ice cream, the light label is a clear sign that you are trading away real dairy fat for an engineered formula. In seventh place, the flavor label itself reveals a practical test of quality and value. Vanilla is the only flavor with its own federal standard of identity, meaning the exact wording on the carton dictates what is actually inside. If a tub is labeled as artificially flavored vanilla or imitation vanilla, the recipe relies on synthetic vanillin, a laboratory-produced compound. This is strictly a naming and value issue rather than a safety concern. Synthetic vanillin is completely safe to eat, but it is dramatically cheaper for manufacturers to buy. Cured Madagascar vanilla beans can cost anywhere from $450 to over $500 per kilogram, while synthetic vanillin costs just $12 to $18 for the exact same amount. This 30-fold price gap is why brands use careful phrasing to protect their profit margins. To see what you are truly buying, look closely at the product name on the front of the tub. Federal rules require specific phrasing. Vanilla ice cream must contain pure vanilla extract, while vanilla flavored can contain a mix of natural and artificial flavors. And artificial vanilla relies entirely on imitation chemistry. While this is a subtler, finer print clue compared to milk fat or whipped air, checking the vanilla labeling is a simple test to make sure you are getting the real bean-derived flavor you are paying for, instead of a cheap laboratory copycat. In eighth place, we leave the ingredient formula behind and look directly at grocery math. For decades, the standard family-size purchase in the freezer aisle was the classic 64-ounce half-gallon. Today, however, those same tub shapes on the shelf almost always contain just 48 ounces, or 1.5 quarts. This packaging shift represents a lesson in package economics rather than recipe composition. Historically, this transition caught many shoppers off guard. In 2018, a major national brand quietly reduced its natural vanilla container from a half-gallon to 48 ounces. By keeping the price per tub identical, the change raised the unit price of the product by roughly 33%. A similar downsize by another leading brand in 2019 resulted in a class action lawsuit over clear net weight disclosures, which settled for $7 million in 2021. Because manufacturers often design the new, smaller containers to occupy the same visual footprint on the shelf, it is easy to pay old size expectations for a smaller amount of food. The lesson here is simple. Nostalgia cannot guide your grocery budget. When you compare brands in the freezer aisle, ignore the shape of the tub and focus entirely on the actual ounces printed on the front panel. Checking the unit price on the shelf tag, the small number showing the cost per ounce, is the most reliable way to make sure you are getting the best value for your hard-earned money. In ninth place, the most visual texture clue in the freezer aisle is the scoop that refuses to melt. Viral videos of frozen desserts sitting in the hot sun for hours without dripping frequently make the rounds online. While this behavior looks impressive and the products are completely safe and legal, it is actually a major clue about the recipe. Traditional ice cream should melt at room temperature, turning back into the liquid cream and milk it came from. When a scoop stubbornly refuses to melt, the recipe usually relies heavily on stabilizers and gums like carrageenan, gar gum, or cellulose gum. These additives create a strong structural network that traps water and fat, preventing the product from liquefying as it warms up. While these formulas are highly effective at preventing freezer burn and keeping transport costs down, they do not deliver the natural dairy breakdown of traditional ice cream. A slow melt is not proof of better quality. It is simply a sign of a highly engineered formula. Home testing is straightforward. Leaving a scoop on a plate for 15 minutes reveals the truth. Real ice cream naturally collapses into a smooth, creamy pool, while a stabilizer-heavy product often retains its shape, looking like a warm foam. Remembering that normal melting is a feature of real dairy, not a flaw, helps spot a formula that relies more on food science than actual cream. In the 10th place, the prominent front panel banner boasting "Made with Real Cream" is a masterclass in how marketing can easily outrun reality. Walking down the freezer aisle, it is easy to trust a bold headline on a carton. But under federal labeling rules, a manufacturer can legally print "Made with Real Cream" on a tub, even if cream is only a minor player in the overall recipe. The front of the tub is prime real estate designed to sell a product, while the back label is where the legal truth resides. When you flip these cartons over, you will often find that the very first ingredients are actually cheap corn syrup, water, whey, or even vegetable oils. The real cream might sit far down the list, grouped behind thickeners, gums, and additives. While these products are perfectly safe, legal, and budget-friendly, the front panel banner tricks your brain into expecting a traditional, dairy-rich density that the recipe simply does not support. It is a clever legal loophole that lets brands build a premium reputation on a budget formula. To protect your wallet, remember that the front panel is just advertising. Always let the descending weight order on the back of the carton tell you exactly how much cream you are buying before you pay premium prices. In the 11th place, we shift our focus entirely away from the ingredient list to the physical environment of the freezer case itself. You can find a carton with pristine ingredients in real dairy, but poor retail handling will ruin the contents before you ever pay for them. When you stand in the grocery aisle, look closely at the containers stacked near the top or back of the display freezer. If you see a layer of icy frost or large crunchy crystals forming right on the outside or inside of the lid, put that container back on the shelf. This buildup is a clear physical indicator of temperature fluctuations. When a tub thaws slightly during transport or shelf stocking, the ice inside melts, and when it freezes again, that moisture migrates to the top, forming hard ice crystals. This is purely a quality defect rather than a safety concern. The product remains completely safe to eat. Those crunchy ice shards permanently break the delicate dairy emulsion, turning a potentially smooth and creamy scoop into a grainy, icy disappointment. No matter how premium the brand name on the front of the tub is, temperature abuse destroys the texture. Checking for physical frost is your final shelf-level quality defense before heading to the checkout counter, helping you avoid paying top dollar for a compromised product that has already lost its creamy appeal. In the 12th place, Turkey Hill. All Natural opens our look at genuine ice cream by proving that honest ingredients do not have to carry a luxury price tag. Many shoppers assume that finding a clean label requires visiting a high-end specialty store and spending $8 a pint. This brand completely upends that assumption right in the standard supermarket freezer aisle. When you turn this carton over, the ingredient list is refreshingly short and completely readable. You will see cream and milk leading the formula, which satisfies the federal descending weight rule. Cream, milk, sugar, and natural flavoring form the entire recipe. There are no laboratory-engineered gums, no seaweed extracts like carrageenan, and no artificial preservatives hiding in the text. Turkey Hill keeps the formula remarkably close to what you would make at home. It maintains a solid 12% butterfat average across the line, safely exceeding the FDA's 10% milk fat minimum. At roughly 18 cents per ounce, this line sits just a fraction above the national average price for economy brands. It offers a highly practical entry point for families who want real dairy without wrecking their weekly grocery budget. By focusing on simple sourcing, it delivers the exact density and slow melt of traditional ice cream. This proves that real legal ice cream remains entirely practical at everyday grocery store money, offering a reliable carton that keeps both your wallet and your high standards completely intact. In the 13th place, Kirkland Signature Super Premium Vanilla takes the concept of supermarket value and gives it a massive upgrade. While our previous entry offers a clean label option at 18 cents an ounce, this warehouse giant cuts that cost down to just 12 cents while pushing the quality even higher. This cult favorite bulk buy is officially labeled as a super premium ice cream, and it has the heavy, dense physical presence to back that up. In a 2023 third-party laboratory test, a gallon of this vanilla weighed in at an impressive 8.8 pounds. That is nearly double the federal weight minimum of 4.5 pounds, proving that Costco is not packing their tubs with whipped-in air. Instead of paying for empty space, you are buying a product with a low overrun that translates directly into a thick, velvety scoop. Turning the tub over reveals an impressive 14% butterfat content, which is well above the legal 10% minimum required for real ice cream. The secret behind this premium quality is found in the supply chain. Costco's 2022 supplier disclosure revealed that this house brand is actually made by the very same contract manufacturer responsible for Häagen-Dazs. This makes it one of the smartest buys in the entire dairy aisle, delivering the exact same luxurious texture and rich dairy density of a high-end gourmet pint for just a fraction of the cost. In the 14th place, Tillamook adds a farmer-owned identity to the real ice cream standard. This Oregon-based cooperative was established in 1909, and its cooperative structure means the dairy farmers themselves own the business. This business model shifts the focus toward long-term quality rather than stripping out ingredients to maximize short-term profit margins. Their manufacturing formula centers on a simple philosophy: use more fresh cream and whip in less air. While standard economy brands push their overrun close to the legal 100% limit, Tillamook keeps their overrun low at around 30%. This means you are buying a dense, heavy carton instead of paying for fluffed up empty space. When you look at the back label, the ingredients confirm this craftsmanship. You will find pasteurized cream, skim milk, and sugar leading the recipe, with egg yolks and gar gum handling the structure. They proudly use the legal term ice cream on the front panel because they easily meet the FDA 10% milk fat standard, averaging a generous 14% butterfat in their extra creamy lines. Tillamook offers an excellent middle ground value in the freezer aisle. It builds on the value story of earlier premium choices by delivering genuine, slow melting density without the luxury price tag of a specialty pint. Choosing a carton with this level of butterfat and low air ensures you get honest, traditional dairy in every single scoop. 15th on our list, Ben & Jerry's proves that you do not have to sacrifice those massive chunks and swirls to get genuine, legally compliant ice cream. Many shoppers assume that heavily loaded pints must rely on food science shortcuts and stabilizer-heavy bases to hold all those cookies, fudge, and brownies together. However, this brand maintains a traditional dairy foundation that lets their ingredients shine. While budget tubs stretch their volume with maximum air, these pints target a low overrun of around 45%. This dense formula yields a heavy-in-the-hand feel that matches the premium price point, so you pay for actual dairy rather than whipped-in empty space. When you turn the carton around, fresh cream is right at the top of the ingredient panel, followed by skim milk, liquid sugar, and egg yolks. The manufacturer refuses to compromise on the dairy standard for their classic pints, keeping the milk fat well above the legal 10% floor. This commitment means every dairy pint carries the official, legal designation of ice cream, rather than the fallback frozen dairy dessert label. Keep in mind their plant-based vegan lines use an OAT milk base, which legally reclassifies them as frozen desserts. But for the traditional dairy pints, you are buying honest, low-air indulgence. It proves that label honesty and a loaded pint can coexist perfectly, leading us directly to our absolute top spot, which famously delivers rich texture using just 5 simple ingredients. And finally, in first place, Häagen-Dazs stands as the definitive super premium benchmark for what real ice cream is supposed to be. While other brands rely on complex engineered formulas to patch together a creamy texture, this brand strips the recipe down to the absolute basics. If you flip over a pint of their classic vanilla, you will find exactly 5 ingredients: cream, skim milk, sugar, egg yolks, and natural Madagascar vanilla extract. There are no artificial colors, no preservatives, and absolutely zero added gums or stabilizers like carrageenan or guar gum. This minimalist approach succeeds because the company relies on physical density rather than chemical thickeners. By keeping their overrun incredibly low, between 20 and 30%, they strictly limit the amount of whipped-in air inside the carton. You are buying a concentrated mixture of 14% butterfat and real dairy solids instead of paying for empty, puffed-up space. Independent laboratory testing in 2023 verified this simple formula and confirmed its complete compliance with the FDA's strict ice cream standard. Because of this high butterfat and low air volume, the product delivers a slow, natural melt and a velvety mouthfeel that food science simply cannot replicate. Your ultimate buying cue in the supermarket is physical heft. When you are standing in the freezer aisle, pick up a pint of Häagen-Dazs in one hand and a budget brand in the other. The weight difference is immediate, proving that simplicity is the ultimate proof of genuine quality. Always check the label to ensure you are getting the real dairy richness your money deserves. Ultimately, the freezer aisle belongs to the shopper who reads the label, because real ice cream isn't defined by marketing, but by the honest ingredients listed on the back of the carton.